Oh, good, thank you. Oh my goodness, I love the response. Everyone got their pizza and their, okay, good. So just to kind of quick introduce myself, my name is Marissa. I am losing my voice. I am a speaker, which is bad for losing your voice. I'm a speaker, an author, podcaster. I've won national awards, and I come to Middlesex Community College every semester. Thank you so much, Shannon, for bringing me here all the time to teach about healthy and toxic relationships, communication skills, boundary setting, and all of the important things that we need to know that no one ever talks about. So today we're going to talk about talking to anyone. So we're learning about how to communicate with each other in a way more in-depth way instead of the surface level, like what's your favorite color, what school did you go to? We're trying to learn about people and develop real relationships, and communication skills plays a large part into that. So what I want to do today is quickly go over a few different new communication skills. Maybe you know them, maybe you don't know them. Either way, we're learning, and then we're going to play a fun game and kind of make this way more interactive than just having someone up here talking at you for an hour. Y'all don't want that. I don't really want to do that. I prefer it to be more fun. So, all right, there's a lot of different types of communication skills. Some of these, like I said, you may have heard of, like verbal and nonverbal communication. Do we all know the difference? We're going to kind of jump into that. Active listening skills. Boundary setting is really important with communication. And then there's a couple other things you might not have heard of, like neuro-linguistic programming. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of neuro-linguistic programming. You do it every day, you just don't know. And then also interested versus interested. So we're going to jump in. So with verbal and nonverbal communication, they're different. Verbal communication is our words, basically a sound that comes out of our mouths. Laughter is a verbal type of communication, right? It can show that you're having fun or enjoying what you're going through or what you're hearing or what you're interacting with, or it can show that you're not so much, like, right? That shows discomfort. That's a verbal communication skill, saying, I'm a little uncomfortable, but I don't know how to communicate that in a different way, right? So words, tone, the tone of your voice, the volume of your voice, right? So if I were to talk really loud at you and really like my tone was fast and angry, it would send a different message than if I talked quietly and calmly and softly. That tonality, that verbal communication all sends a message, right? And then nonverbal, we have body language and we have facial expressions. If I stood up here and I was slumped over like this and my arms were crossed, what am I communicating to you? That I don't really want to be here, right? That I don't care, that I'm bored maybe, right? Or I'm disinterested, uninterested in y'all. Whereas if I have open body language and I'm moving around and I'm talking to you, now what am I projecting? That I'm happy, I like it here, that I'm excited, right? That I'm open to having conversations, open to talking to you, right? I'm trying to be inviting, right? So our body language and our facial expressions teach people what we're feeling and thinking, right? Does anyone have, what is it, RBF? Resting bitter face? Me. Yeah, so you could be standing there and your face is telling people, don't come near me, right? I don't want to have anything to do with you. But you might not feel that way, so being cautious and conscientious of the facial expressions we're making, right? How we are presenting ourselves makes a big difference about people's comfortability and willingness to communicate with you, right? Are there any psych majors in here? Have you all ever heard of the framing effect? No? Okay, so the framing effect is a psychological tool, I guess, or a psychological concept where the way you say something creates the response you get back. So if I saw you walking in the hallway and I was like, hey, you! What am I telling you? I'm excited and I want to talk to you. If I said, hey, you! Now what am I saying? I'm angry or aggressive, right? And the response I get from those makes a difference. If I said, hey, you, you'd probably walk over and say, hi, stranger, you seem kind of friendly, right? Versus if I said, hey, you, you'd walk over and immediately be defensive. Like, what does she want from me? Like, why is she picking a fight, right? So the framing effect, how you say things, makes a huge difference in how people perceive you, right? Okay, any questions on that? Awesome. All right, neuro-linguistic programming. That's a really long way to say mirroring behavior. if you're in a one-on-one scenario with somebody and they're telling you a sad story and they're talking at a low volume and kind of slow and choking through their words, and your response is big and fast and explosive, do you think they're going to hear what you're saying? Right, they're not going to hear what you're saying. Right? They're going to immediately shut down or get defensive. So when you're having a conversation with someone or a group of people, it's important to match their energy, match their tone, match their mannerisms, match their volume, because it builds a rapport. So if we're any of the psych majors in the room, or really any of the people in the room, who wants to be in an interpersonal career, like a counselor, social worker, or HR, something like that, where you're working with people every day? This is a great skill for you to learn, neuro-linguistic programming. It builds immediate rapport. Who here wants to have a job when you graduate? And will likely have to do an interview. Neuro-linguistic programming is huge for that, because you will build an immediate connection with the employer. If you match their tone, if you match their energy, and actually it's been psychologically proven that if you match their breathing pattern, you will immediately build an energetic connection to them, a rapport with them, and you're more likely to get whatever job you're interviewing for. Or even like when you're sitting at lunch or dinner with some friends, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you see your friend pick up a coffee cup or a bottle of water and start drinking, you will likely do that too, not realizing it because you're connected to them. Right? That's neuro-linguistic programming. It creates this connection, you know, and mirroring people makes them feel safe with you. Mirroring people makes them build rapport with you. So using these tips and tools, making sure that you're matching their tone, their volume, their mannerisms, their verbiage, it's a really cool tool to build a connection and create great friendships. Active listening. Who's ever heard of active listening? Someone tell me what it means. Go ahead.
Well, for me, I would say like paying attention, participating in what you're hearing, you know, incorporating, you know, what you're hearing into things that you'll, you know, make memorable for you.
Yeah, it's responding, validating when someone's talking, so when you're nodding along with them, it means you're listening and you know what they're saying, right? Or affirming someone if they say, you know, I've had this really bad day and I'm just all over the place. Oh man, I'm sorry, that really stinks, let me hear about it. Right? That's active listening. You're participating in the conversation, you're validating and affirming them, and you're allowing them to feel safe, right? You're showing them that you're listening to them. It's listening to hear and not to respond. Anyone here ever watch Gilmore Girls? You know how they banter back and forth really fast, but they never actually listen to each other? That's not active listening, right? That's a great example of not listening. They're listening for one trigger word so they can bounce back and forth and respond and be witty and quick. But when active listening is actually there, you're taking your time to actually internalize the words, hear what the person is saying, and then respond, right? So active listening is participating while also making sure that they know they're being heard. Setting boundaries. Anyone here know what boundaries are? So important. So, so important. Boundaries are guidelines that we set that allow other people to know what we expect from them and what they can expect from us. It's sort of like a user manual, right? So other people know how to treat us. Yeah, come in. I didn't mean to call you out. Okay. Well, anyways, it's like a user manual, so other people know what we expect from them, how we need to feel, what they need to do to make sure that we feel supported and loved, right? So a boundary can be, for me, I don't like being texted 3 times in a row. It gives me anxiety, it makes me unhappy, especially when it's like 2 words at a time. That drives me nuts. So a boundary for me is, it makes me feel safer when you send me one long 17-page text with as much detail as you need, rather than 85 mini text messages that could have truly been 2 sentences, right? So for me, that's my boundary, and I tell everyone with my phone number that boundary so that they know how to make me feel safe. So it's important for us as humans to communicate with the people in our lives what our boundaries are, what it is that they can do to make us feel safe and comfortable, or what it is that they are doing that's making us feel unsafe or uncomfortable, right? That way people know how to support us. And it helps us see the people in our lives that don't respect us. So if they don't respect us, they're not going to respect our boundaries, right? And they're going to prove that to us over and over again. And then interested versus interesting. Has anyone ever heard of this concept? I think this is so cool. So there's 3 schools of people. There's people who are interested, people who ask a lot of questions, generally introverts who don't like to share a ton of information, but kind of just like to listen and be like a passive participant in a conversation. There are people who are interesting, who love to talk about themselves, rarely ask other people questions, but just share and share and share. And then there's people who are a mix of both, who like to share about themselves, so they're offering some insight and their voice. There are people who, and then they like to also ask questions, so they get to know about and learn from and about other people. What we aim to be is those people, the people in the middle, who are both interested and interesting, right? We want people to learn about us so they get to know us, but we also want to learn about other people. So it's not so selfish and not so quiet. Do we have any questions about this? All right. So now we're going to play some speed friending. Does anyone have any questions about anything that we spoke about? No? Any questions about any of them? Something else that's fascinating I didn't put on this slideshow is called labeling. So it's labeling what somebody is saying. So instead of saying, wow, that stinks, or like immediately kind of shutting down, or immediately, telling somebody what they're experiencing, you could say, it sounds like, so that it's your perception and they can clarify. So someone's telling you about this bad day and they're like, oh, everything is terrible and I'm having the worst day and I woke up and I tripped over my dog and then I smacked my head on the floor and then I couldn't find my socks and all my underwear was dirty and then I hit every stoplight on the way to school. And instead of saying, wow, your life is terrible, that's tragic, and that stinks, you could say, wow, it sounds like you've had a really bad day. So not only are you labeling it, as like, it sounds like you're giving them the autonomy to make the decision and correct you, but you're also telling them what you're hearing. So it's a mix of active listening, and also it's a mix of labeling. Does that make sense? So moving forward with skills like that. So we're going to play some speed friending. So what that means is either join a table, or we're going to fill the first and second, or split between the first and second row. And I have questions that are going to go on the board. We're going to start having real, actual, in-depth conversations, not the what's your favorite color, tell me about, your class today kind of shallow conversations. We want to develop real friendships here today. We want to develop real communication skills. So everything we've learned, we're going to put into practice. So if you'd like, you could either join groups and be big groups, or we could do 2 rows of chairs facing each other and do it sort of like speed dating. Has anyone ever heard of that? Yeah? Okay. Oh man, that got the biggest reaction today.
Speed friending.
All right, awesome. So oh my God, you can't put
My name is Sarah. Go by Cookie if you like.
All right, so on the board are a bunch of questions. They are more engaging and more deeper dive type of questions than just the shallow questions, and they all spark a conversation. So go around the circle, go around your tables, and start having conversations and really get to know the people at your table. Right? Start communicating with each other in a more impactful way.
What's your name? Isaiah. Isaiah.